Good morning. Good morning, Royal We Fellowship. Good morning, Royal We Fellowship. It's good to be back here with you this weekend. Shabbat Shalom. My apologies for last Saturday. I was locked out of this particular YouTube channel, locked out of this account. I don't know why. I had to reset I had to reset my password. So, but everything is good. We're back up and running. I didn't lose it or anything like that, but it's good to be back here. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Royal We Fellowship for those of you who are new, and for those of you who are rejoining. We are continuing back in our story of Exodus as we are walking with people who have left a very toxic situation. God has led them out of a toxic situation, that is being in Egypt, where they were experiencing a lot of oppression. And we're going to be getting into the place now where they are going to reconstruct their lives, where they're going to learn a brand new way of living. And this is going to resonate with a lot of you in the chapters ahead, okay, in the weeks to come. The way in which we're going to see the people live their lives, make changes. It's going to be painful. It's going to be different. But this is what being renewed, this is what changing after toxicity and what narcissistic abuse is all about. So we're going to take a journey into that. So I hope that you enjoy the message, and I hope that you receive it well in your own life and in your own situation. And before we get started, let's go ahead and open up in prayer, and then we'll jump right in. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for this morning, and thank you for this time of gathering. Lord, we ask for your wisdom. We ask for your guidance. We ask for you to speak into our lives and into our situation right now. Open our ears, open our eyes, and open our minds, and open our hearts, Lord, to what you have to say and to what it is that you would like us to know and that you would like for us to do. And everybody says, amen. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump in now. For those of you who are new, or for those of you who need to brush up on where we've been, we have been following along, as I said earlier, with the people who have been taken out, mixed multitude, not just Israeli people, but basically all the people who were not Egyptians, okay? They were slaves, they were in bondage, they were oppressed living in Egypt. Now then, it's important to understand that they, even though they knew they were oppressed in Egypt, they didn't fully understand they were oppressed in Egypt, right? This is how many of you, myself included, are in toxic relationships. You can be in a toxic relationship, you can be with an abusive person, and even though you know it's a toxic relationship and you know you're with an abusive person, you still don't know necessarily yet that you need to stop. You need to get out. You need to leave. There's something about the oppression that you hate, but there's something about the oppression that you don't know if you can do without. So the people in Egypt, even though they were abused, even though they were slaves, even though they were doing things that they did not want to do, even though they were robbed of the ability of the freedom of their expression, which is what happens in toxic relationships. Is that not right? You are robbed of your freedom of expression, because the freedom of expression is a threat to narcissistic people. And this is true in individual relationships. It's true in your families. Yeah, this is why a lot of you never had families that you could express yourself. You could be free to be you, because it threatened them. It threatened their way of doing things. Well, this is the exact truth about the people in Egypt. The people were robbed of any freedom of expression because it threatened Egypt and it threatened their way of doing things. It's all part of the oppression. But they did not want to leave. All right? And this is why it had to become ugly and nasty to drive them out. So in order to do that, as we look back at the chapters, God had to harden Pharaoh's heart. People want to know, why was Pharaoh's heart hardened? Why did the Lord send Moses to confront Pharaoh only for Pharaoh to become cruel and mean? Well, because God needed that to drive the people out. Because if Pharaoh would have been nice, if Pharaoh would have been loving, if Pharaoh would have changed whatever, then the people would have stayed. Right? You know this all too well. A lot of you were in and out of toxic relationships, and you're waiting and hanging on to the moment that your narcissistic parents or your narcissistic ex would just break down and say, I love you. I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. Whether they're lying or not, it doesn't matter. You just want to hear that, and then you stay. And then the cycle repeats itself. You were given some lip service, and then boom, you're walloped again, you're abused again. This is the cycle of abuse. So what the Lord had to do was harden Pharaoh's heart so that Pharaoh became angry and aggressive and toxic and violent and hostile, and he literally chased the people out. And then Moses was in a position to say, okay, follow me this way, right? And a lot of people think that Moses went in and convinced the people to leave. No, Moses went in and angered the Pharaoh. That's all that happened. Moses went in, challenged the Pharaoh became angry, and as a result, the Pharaoh drove everybody out. And this is what happens in oftentimes your toxic relationships. The abuse becomes so bad that it drives you out, because the Lord knows that the only thing that's going to get you to move is that hostility, that anger, that narcissistic rage, and so you leave, right? So this is where we're at now, and then the people have been grumbling. The people have been saying things like, I wish I was back in that toxic relationship because at least I had food to eat, at least I had a house, and now we're out here in the wilderness, and we're alone, and I'm isolated, and I have no friends, and I have no family, and I have no this, I have no that. And the people are grumbling and crying and complaining. Moses is getting irritated. The Lord is getting irritated because really the people have everything they need. When we leave toxic relationships, it's easy to look back and say, I don't have that anymore. I don't have that big family. I don't have that fun. But if we really just stop and we calm down, we'll realize that we have what we need. And the Lord needs to strip everything away that we don't need, but we think we need, in order for us to be content with just our basic needs. Because the Lord wants to meet you first with just your basic needs. Why is that? I have an idea. The Lord wants to meet you with your basic needs so that you know who you are, without all that stuff. Without the fancy foods, without the fancy house, without that good-looking relationship, without that family, without that mom, without that dad, without that brother, without that sister, the Lord wants you to be content in knowing, well, who are you? And so all of these things get stripped away because you're not your relationship with those people. And that's one of the hardest things that we need to understand. So the people are learning. They're detaching, they're detoxing, if you will, as they're following Moses, and they're not happy. They're just not happy. They're crying and they're complaining. Moses, what'd you do? You took us out of our home, out of Egypt, and now we have no food, and now we don't know who we are, and on and on and on. So here we are in Exodus 19. And we are about to enter into the time when the Lord has taken them out of their toxic relationship, and now he's entering into a place where he's going to make promises and into a covenant with them. This is where the Lord wants to meet you, wants to meet me, but it's going to require some changes in our lives that we need to start to take seriously. And so Exodus 19 here is the Lord preparing Moses to prepare the people. Get ready. I'm going to give you a new way to live, and you need to be prepared for this. So Exodus 19, on the first day, on the third month, something about threes here. We're going to start to see this number 3, and it's going to start, reoccurring more and more and more in the Bible here. The first day, the third month after the Israelites left Egypt, on that day, they came to the desert of Sinai. So they're coming to they're coming to the place where Mount Sinai is. This is where they are going to have their interaction with God. This is where they're going to receive the instructions. This is where they are going to change the way they live from here on out. All right. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain, or camped there. Then Moses went up to God. Verse 3. And the Lord called to him from the mountain and said, "This is what you were to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you were to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself." All right. The Lord is reminding them, you've seen how I've taken you out of that toxic relationship. Some of you are complaining, some of you aren't happy, but you have seen what I've done. You've seen how you were able to get away and how all of the Egyptian army fell behind you. None of you were touched. None of you were hurt. right? A lot of us in toxic situations, we become fearful to leave because we might get hurt. But what happens is we leave, we see how we're not touched. It becomes worse in our mind than the reality of what's actually happening. The Lord wants us to know, you've seen how I've done it. And yes, it was scary. And yes, there was threats, but we're out, right? Now, if you obey me, verse 5, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession, although the whole earth is mine. You will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites. The Lord is saying, Moses, tell them that if they obey my commands, my covenants with them, then they will be a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. I will set them apart. They will be my treasured possession. I will set them apart. It's important to understand that if we are to be set apart from toxicity, from toxic people, from narcissists, from family members, then we need to adhere to a different set of rules. We need to adhere to a different way of living. Too many of us got caught in this gray area, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It took me a long time to realize this about myself. I'm going to be talking about this on Royal We videos coming up in the future, but listen, it's easy to fall into this place of saying I'm a Christian, therefore I should know how to get along with everybody, which translates into, if we're not careful, I can go on to church on Sunday, and then on Friday, I can hang out with my friends who like to drink. I can hang out with that guy who likes to party. I can hang out with my family who likes to play poker and smoke cigars and drink. And I could partake in that because that's what family does. That's what friends do. That's what being, and in that way, I'm actually loving them. No. This is the false thinking that gets us sucked into toxic relationships. And eventually you see just how much of a gray area you're in, and we don't even realize it. We think we're doing the right thing. We think we're doing the loving thing, associating with these people because we don't want to be judgmental. But what we're seeing here, what the Lord is telling the people, and this is harsh, but this is what you and I need to know. If you fully keep my covenant, if you fully keep the instructions, if you fully live according to these things, which means you won't partake in these things at all, only then will you be considered a treasured possession. Only then will you be considered my people. Only then will you be set apart. And too many of us wonder, how come it is we're not set apart? How come it is we're not getting the respect of those who live horrible lifestyles, yet here we are trying to do the right thing. We're trying to be Christians. We're trying to love them, yet they don't respect us. Well, what's there to respect about you partaking in that stuff? This is where we lose respect. You see, we got backwards in Christianity. The whole go love everybody message turned into a partake message, and we lost respect. As Christians, as believers, we've lost everything. We've become gray, lukewarm, disgusting creatures stuck in the middle, doing things and partaking in worldly actions, calling it Christianity, but partaking with the world, calling that love, and lost everything. That's where we've been. It's time to get now back to a place where right now, and I believe right here on Royal We Fellowship and in our lives, the Lord wants to take us to Mount Sinai. It's a brand new start. The Lord wants to get you back into position before him, re-give you instructions for the rest of your life. The instructions he's going to give you are going to create in you and make you his treasured possession. It's going to make you respected once again. I believe that's what the Lord wants to do. Verse 7. So Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all the words the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people all responded together, "We will do everything the Lord has said." So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. The Lord has said to Moses, "I am going to come to you in a dense cloud so that the people will hear me speaking with you and will always put their trust in you." Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. Verse 10, And the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes. We're going to get into, once again, this number 3. Here's the third day. And it's interesting. Everything is in these 3s. Consecrate, wash the clothes, take 2 days to prepare. And on the third day, I'm going to meet them. We see this again later in the New Testament. Jesus died. He rose on the third day. So this is an important aspect. We'll get more into this as the chapters go on. And also, it's also going to get into fasting, okay? And there's a reason why fasting, a minimum for fasting is 3 days. So if we look at what 3 days does, when you abstain for things from 3 days, it's a detoxification process, really. 3 days is the minimum to detoxify. If you're going to fast from food, and I fasted, how many of you have fasted before, where you eat absolutely nothing, right? I have, it was years ago, fasted before I went to some Christian conference. The first day of fasting was rough. I was hungry. The second day of fasting was rough. I was hungry. And it's a detoxifying process. It's a letting go process. The third day, I wasn't hungry anymore. I wasn't hungry for food. I wasn't. I was okay. I was content not having anything to eat on the third day. It's really weird when your body goes through that detoxification process. And so the Lord wanted them to detox for 3 days. And so for this reason, the Lord said, be ready by the third day, consecrate them today, tomorrow, have them do nothing basically but wash their clothes. And there's more to that. Watch this. Put limits for the people around the mountain and tell them, be careful that you do not approach the mountain or touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mountain will be put to death. We're starting to get into some harsh rules for them to follow. After Moses had gone down the mountain, the people, he consecrated them and they washed their clothes. He said to the people, prepare yourselves for the third day. And he said this, abstain from sexual relations. In other words, those of you who are married, don't mess with your wives. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't do anything, right? This is a fast. This is a fast where you detox from everything. Yes, and even sexual relationships and stuff like that can, not that that's toxic, especially in marriage, but what happens is if you are having sexual interactions, then it's real easy for that to cloud your focus and for you to be there before the Lord or on church on Sunday thinking about how you just can't wait to get home and have sex, right? So it creates a hunger for something else. Again, the purpose of a fast from anything, food, sex, television, whatever it is it's a process, and they didn't have television back then. So really, all the people had back then in the desert wandering around was food and sex, right? And that's it. And then instructions. That was really their life, their entertainment. So the Lord said, and told Moses, listen, fast for 3 days. In other words, detox for 3 days. Get it out of your mind. Get it out of your wants. And on the third day, you'll be mentally prepared and focused to receive what I have to tell you. Your focus won't be split. Your mind won't be elsewhere. You'll be hungry for the right things in life. You'll be hungry for my words as opposed to thinking about something else, okay? So this is what preparation, this is what fasting is all about. There's a minimum, anytime you fast, a minimum of 3 days. A minimum of 3 days. All right. And so they had to wash their clothes. They got themselves cleaned up. That was all a part of it. And on the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Here's the presence of the Lord coming onto the mountain, coming into Mount Sinai. Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. What a sight. What a sight to see this mountain. And there's images. You can look up Mount Sinai on Google Maps or where they believe Mount Sinai was. And you can imagine the place trembling, the rocks trembling, the whole mountain shaking, the smoke coming up. You can imagine how this would go down. It would be absolutely terrifying. As the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and the voice of God answered him. The Lord descended to the top of the Mount Sinai, called Moses to the top of the mountain, so Moses went up. And the Lord said to him, "Go down and warn the people, so they do not force their way through to see the Lord, and many of them perish." Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. We need to stop thinking that we can approach the Lord as dirty individuals, because we cannot. One of the things that, and we know that in Christianity, the message is that come as you are. Jesus wants to embrace you and hug you as you are sick, and this is true. But we need to stop living in such a way where we become so dirty all the time that we're constantly going to the Lord just filthy, right? The Lord cannot stand for that. This is not, right? Jesus hugged the Lord hugged those who were sick and who were ill and said, go and sin no more. How many of you are aware of that? Meaning, if you do this, you will just get sick again. This is why the Lord said, go and sin no more every time he healed somebody. He says, listen, I have made it possible now for me to come and embrace you while you're sick, while you're ill, while you're burdened down with sins, but don't do it anymore, because I cannot hold on to you while you're sick, while you're in sin. I can't hold on to you. And a lot of Christianity has unfortunately gone that route. Come as you are, and people stay as they are, and they feel, it's easy to feel like the Lord is embracing you in your sickness, but the Lord is not. The Lord meets you when you come in, meets you when you are desiring and hungry for healing, but then the Lord releases you, and if you get sick again, you get sick again, right? And you can meet the Lord again, but he's not going to embrace you in your sickness. He won't, he can't. The Lord said to him, after the Lord descended on top of Mount Sinai, called to Moses. Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, go down and warn the people so they do not force their way through. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves. The Lord will break out against them. Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us. Put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy. The Lord replied, go down and bring Aaron up with you. But the priests and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or they will break, or he will break out against them. So Moses went down and told the people. So Moses is interacting between God and the people, saying, don't come closer, you'll perish, you'll die. You cannot come to the foot of this mountain. Don't touch it. Aaron can come with me, and that's it. And we're going to talk. We're gonna work this out. You're going to give your instruction, but the Lord wants you to see him. The Lord wants you to be a part of this. The Lord wants you to experience, but it has to be done in this way. The rules begin now. The rules for life begin now, and this is where we're at. And so we are going to continue on next week. Next Shabbat, we'll continue on with those rules, with the new way for people to live. And this new way, keep in mind, is in order so that the people can be separated from the world, so that the people can live differently than the world, so that the people can be set apart, something that we have lost in faith. We've forgotten what it is to be set apart. We've become friends with the world, and nowhere in the Bible does the Lord say to be friends with the world. You cannot be friends with the world and friends with the Lord. That you've got to be set apart. There's strict rules of being set apart, because if you entertain and you interact and you become one with the world, then you're no longer one with God, because the world does things that God is not okay with. Remember, we live in a fallen, broken, and cursed world. We have to understand that. And so if here we are, if we're entertaining and being a part of a cursed world, and we are a part of that curse, then we cannot be one with God, if that makes sense. So we need to learn how to be set apart, and that is what we are going to be getting into. And I hope that this message has reached many of you, has touched you in a certain way, has helped you to gain some wisdom, some understanding in your situation. And I thank all of you for being here this morning. For those of you who would like to continue to help and support Roe We Fellowship, please do so. There should be a link down below where you are welcome to give back if you are so inspired. It's not required, but rather if you are inspired to do so. And I am so just so happy that you are here. Thank you for being here this morning. Again, my apologies for last week as I was locked out of this account, having to reset passwords and whatnot. and it had to do with an update. I've updated my Apple products here from the last software update, and just now I've got Mac OS Monterey, which is the brand new one. So when I when I not reformatted, but when I updated the version to Monterey, it seemed to just knock my passwords out of whack, and suddenly I was locked out of things and had to reset a bunch of passwords. And so that's why last week I was locked out of my Google. So thank you once again for everybody for being here. We will be back next Saturday morning, next Shabbat, for Royal We Fellowship as we continue on in our journey together. All right. Blessings to you all. Have a great rest of your weekend. I look forward to being here with you next Saturday morning, next Shabbat, right here on Royal We Fellowship. Have a great weekend, everybody.